Black Ops 6 is now free to play, and so there's a whole lot of crazy builds out there. So I have for you today the actual top 5 meta weapons that you should be using if you want to be able to dominate those new players. With the first weapon being the Model L. This is a very hard-hitting AR that if you don't miss, you're going to get a very good TTK, and the enemies are probably going to think you're hacking. One thing about this gun is that the iron sights are horrible unless you're using the variant that you get for, I believe, hitting level 50 prestige 1. You unlock the STG one, and it gives you these very clean iron sights. And honestly, I love the iron sights for this gun. Like, you actually can get a free attachment, making the weapon statistically a little bit stronger. If you do want to use an optic, I'll give you a variation of the build, but this gun just overall really doesn't have that much recoil, so you can easily get away with the suppressor, making it so much easier to build up that streak. Next up, we are going to go over to the barrel. This is a little bit OD, and you could take off the barrel for an optic or a different attachment if you want. This is going to be the reinforced barrel. It's going to increase that bullet velocity and that damage range. Without that, our damage range is about 44 meters, which is more than enough. Majority of your gunfights are going to be about like 40 meters if you are using an AR, but something about just maxing out that damage range, making it no matter where you're at on the map, you're going to be able to get that very fast TTK. For the underbarrel, we are using the Ranger foregrip. Since you can play pretty aggressive with the gun and the mobility isn't that good, this can increase that sprint to movement speed as well as eliminating the little bit of side-to-side bounce that this thing has. With the iron sights, you can notice that side-to-side. This is going to eliminate that. Now, you don't really need to add a magazine. Again, you could add a stock or maybe add rapid fire or an optic, but I'd like the extended mag on here. Just makes it so I don't really have to worry about reloading. Makes it so much easier to streak up. And then lastly, for the rear grip, we are using the quick draw grip, making the gun a little bit snappier. Makes it a little bit easier just to, refocus onto those targets. If you have a couple targets on your screen, it's going to be easier to snap onto them, and you're going to be able to usually get that first shot off a little bit faster. I do like the ergonomic grip, but with this gun, I am sitting back a little bit more, and so I don't really need to have a faster slide to fire speed. I'm going to get more value out of that ADS speed. Right here is going to be my favorite 5 attachment, Model L. If you guys do want to use the 8 attachments, I would then, might as well use an optic. Make sure you have the precision sight. The only thing is that the iron sights, the precision sight, like the reticle, it is a little bit weird because you see the iron sights there, and I believe that's because we have a barrel on there. For the stock, we are going to be adding the infiltrator stock, allowing you to strafe very fast. The enemies aren't going to really be able to hit you. And then for the fire mods, we are going to go add the rapid fire. This is going to increase that rate of fire by about 9%. It already has a very fast TTK. Now it's going to kill 9% faster, really pissing off the enemies. It's just the gun's going to be a little bit bouncy. So if you are rocking the gunfighter build, I do recommend rapid fire with that ported compensator. And that is one downside. You are going to be on the radar since, we don't have a suppressor on the gun. Next up, this is going to be the PPSH, one of the best SMGs in the game. Has a very, very good TTK and is pretty easy to use. Again, we are using a suppressor, so there is going to be a little bit of recoil. So if you can't really control that, I would add the compensator. This is typically going to be the best for the SMGs. Then for the ARs, you want to use that ported compensator. Next up, for the barrel, we're going to be adding the long barrel, increasing that damage range up to 17.7 meters. If we take a look at the bullet velocity, it's already at 500, so we don't really need to increase that. Although I have been seeing some players with the reinforced, and the reinforced does feel kind of good. Basically, the higher bullet velocity you have, the better hit registration. It's going to feel like you're on that better ping for those longer range engagements. For me though, I still recommend that long barrel. For the underbarrel, we're going to be adding that vertical foregrip, just since that muzzle doesn't give us any recoil control. We need to bring some of that up by adding the vertical foregrip, maximizing that side-to-side recoil. If you are using the compensator, you could add the Ranger foregrip, making the gun feel a little bit lighter, since this magazine does make the weapon feel heavy. This is going to bring up that mag size to 55, so you never have to worry about reloading, but it does lower the ADS speed. You reload slower, and your sprint to fire speed isn't the best. And then so that's why we do have the quick draw stock. I would add the combat stock, so we have our faster slide to fire speed, which is still a very, very good option. It's just the gun, it feels so heavy with the extended mag that I just really don't like it unless I have the quick draw on there. And so if you are using a smaller magazine, then you can definitely get away with the combat. By the way, if you're not enjoying the camo grind, or you just simply don't have time, check out my long-term sponsor, Guapsi. They will legitimately play in your account to hard unlock literally anything that you want. And this goes for Warzone, zombies, and multiplayer. I've been working with them for a very long time, and I still haven't seen a single negative review, since they don't use an unlock tool, they don't hack, they do it the right way. And so if you want to free up your time and energy, check out the top link of the description and visit guapsi.com. For the gunfighter build, which I don't really recommend, I don't think you really need it. It's better to get more value out of your perks by using perk greed. But if you do want to use the gunfighter build, you can make the gun even easier to use by adding the recoil springs. This is going to give us a nice 10% boost overall to that control, and then we're still going to be off that radar. For the laser, use the Strelok laser. This can increase the hipfire to ADS accuracy so nice because you basically have 100% accuracy before you're fully ADS. For the next gun, we have one of the fastest killing SMGs in the game. The only SMG that is going to kill faster is going to be that compact, but the compact is a little bit difficult to use and doesn't have that much range, to where the KSV is going to be a lot more versatile. And if you rock this Warzone camo, bro, it just looks absolutely clean. Shout out to Guapsi for getting me that camo because that is unbelievably difficult to get. Now for the muzzle, we're going to be adding the compensator just to make the gun very consistent. There's not much recoil on the gun, but there is a little bit. This is going to make it so you don't really miss any shots, although you can definitely get away with adding the suppressor. It's just for your underbarrel. If you are using the suppressor, you'll for sure have to use the vertical foregrip or the gunfighter build I'm going to give you. Since we get a lot of recoil control, that gun kick control, removing that shake from the iron sights, we can easily get away with the Ranger, making the weapon feel even lighter. This thing is very good. Like up close, the damage range isn't that good, so you got to play aggressive. The Ranger foregrip is going to allow you to do so, which is also why we have the long barrel on there to increase that effective damage range, so we don't have to get as close if we want to get that fastest TTK. Again, the bolt velocity is already in the 500s, so we're going to get more value out of increasing that damage range, since SMGs in this game just have a crazy damage fall off. And then for the rear grip, we are using the ergonomic grip. Since we are playing aggressive, we are going to be using this one to increase that slide to fire and that dive to fire speed. This game has a lot of delays, so this is going to eliminate a lot of that delay, just making the weapon feel a lot more fluid, and you're not going to die from things that you can't really control. Then lastly, for the stock, we are using the balance stock. Whenever you see like double arrows on the balance stock, I usually like to throw it on. It just means that we get so much strafe speed, that movement, the hip fire, the strafing, all sorts of type of strafe speed. The balance stock is definitely going to be the best option. Right here is my favorite 5 attaching KSV. If I do want to add a magazine, I will take off the stock, then add the extended mag 1 onto there, which is why the gunfighter build can be so good. We can go over to the stock, add the balance stock, so now we feel very fluid while also having a lot of ammo. For the laser, since you're so close, the fast motion actually does come in handy. Just keep in mind the enemies can see the red laser somewhat easily, but like if you think about it, like you probably really haven't seen that many lasers on the game. I haven't, so I really do like to add a laser onto this build so I have a very good hip fire spread. And then also for the last attachment, we are going to be adding the suppressor. We're going to be adding the recoil springs. This is going to give us a lot of recoil control. You guys can see that we have double arrows on there. And so if we do look at the detailed stats, there is so much recoil control in this class, and the mobility is buffed up. Like we literally have no downsides except for reloading a little bit slower. And because the gun's so easy now to use the recoil springs, you can use the suppressor tied in with that Ranger foregrip. So now you're going to be off the radar, no recoil, a lot of mobility. Right here is going to be my favorite gunfighter KSV build. For the next gun on this list, this is going to be the C9. Also in this video, I do have a bonus, like insanely good class, but most of you guys already have it, so that's why I just put it at the end as a bonus. Right here, this is going to be like the Warzone meta SMG. It has one of the fastest TTKs in Warzone, and it still is very good in multiplayer. The only thing is that there is a little bit of side-to-side bounce, and so if you aren't doing that good with this class, definitely add the vertical foregrip. I just like how fast you feel with the Ranger foregrip, so that's why I'm using that over the vertical. And then for the barrel, the bolt velocity is 550, so you really don't need to increase the bolt velocity. You're not going to be getting into too many crazy range gunfights, which, fun fact, this is actually the best SMG at range, not necessarily like recoil control wise, but damage range wise, and so that just makes it a little bit better. Then for the muzzle, we are going to be adding the suppressor, keeping ourselves off the radar, making it so much easier to build up that streak. Again, if you want the gun to be easy to use, definitely use the compensator, but I think you're perfectly fine with that suppressor. And then lastly, for the rear grip, we are going to be adding the ergonomic. Whenever you're playing aggressive, use the ergonomic. If you're sitting back a little bit more, use the quick draw. The assault, the combo, and the CQB are usually irrelevant. The only time the CQB is good is if you have like a strictly hip fire build. Just majority of the time you're ADSing in your gunfight, so you get more value out of that ergonomic. And then again, I'm always building up streaks with the suppressor in this build since it just feels so good. I'm going to be using the extended mag, so I don't really have to worry about reloading as often. Right here's my favorite 5 attachment C9. If you guys do want to rock the gunfighter, we're going to go over to the stock, add the infiltrator stock. This makes it feel like an OG MP5 and just allows you to strafe so fast, making yourself a very hard target to hit, and you get that rotational aim assist a little bit easier. Definitely rock the infiltrator stock, feels pretty broken on this gun. And then the rapid fire, last time I didn't add the rapid fire, people are mad at me. Yes, the rapid fire is good, but it just adds a lot of recoil to the weapon to where you really can't use it at range. And then it also just adds a lot of, it just lowers that damage range. So then it's even worse at range, where then you have to go to the barrel, add the reinforce. And so if you're putting the enemies, like if you're putting the gun inside them, then the rapid fire is good, but then like might as well just use the KSV at that point. So for me, I really like the recoil springs, making the gun just that much more accurate. Last attachment, don't run an optic. If you run an optic on SMG, you're basically breaking the law. That is an absolute crime. We're going to be adding the Strelok laser, increasing that hip fire to ADS accuracy. This thing doesn't have the fastest ADS accuracy, so you get a little bit more value out of the Strelok, and the enemies don't really see blue lasers, which is what the Strelok has. Right here is my favorite gunfighter C9 build. Phenomenal. This is the zombies camo. Again, shout out to Quapsy for getting me that one. And then we are going to be going over the AK-74, which is the fastest killing full auto AR. I like the gun after this a little bit more, but this is a very hard hitting gun. There's not that much recoil. The mobility isn't the best. So a lot of people do like to rock the gunfighter on here, but if you can get used to it and you can hit your shots, you're going to be absolutely evaporizing the enemies. It is so extremely fun to use. It's just because it's bouncy, we're going to be adding the porta compensator. This is going to make it so the first like 5 shots have literally no recoil. The compensator gives you like a general better recoil pattern, but since this gun kills so fast, you only need a few shots. The porta's going to work better for there. We are going to be adding the reinforced barrel. Without that, our damage range is only 38 meters, so reinforced brings it up to about 45. But if you're playing on the really big maps and you have a very good connection on the game, you'll probably get more value out of the long barrel. For me though, let's add the reinforced. The iron sights are not bad, but I 100% guarantee you will do better with the Kepler. It just feels cooler without an optic, so you could take that off, maybe add the vertical foregrip, making the gun that much more accurate, and that does make the iron sights a lot easier to use. We are going to be adding a fast mag onto here. I really like the fast mag on this gun because it doesn't have that fast of a fire rate, so you're going to get a lot of value out of being able to reload faster rather than having a little bit extra ammo. Although on Nuketown you might want to do the extended mag 1. Then lastly, we are going to add the recoil springs, just giving us a little bit more recoil control. Typically, if it only gives us like 5% for the recoil gun kick, horizontal and vertical, I won't use the recoil springs, but it just, this gun is pretty bouncy and a little bit tough to use to where I do better with the recoil springs. Right here is going to be my favorite 5 attachment AK-74, and again, this thing is going to be extremely good with the gunfighters. So we're going to be adding the Ranger foregrip just because the gun is kind of heavy. The mobility isn't the best. The Ranger foregrip is going to feel good, even though we get a lot more control and it's easy to use with the vertical. For the rear grip, we're going to be adding the quick draw grip, making the gun, you know, just feel like there's no cons. It's going to feel like a regular AR. It's going to just feel a little bit snappier. I almost took off the recoil springs for the quick draw grip, but the recoil springs just make it a little bit more accurate, and I feel more value from the recoil springs. For the next attachment, we're going to go over to the stock, and I really like the combat stock on here. So since you're at range a lot of time with this build and you don't really want to miss any shots, this is going to make it so if the enemies do hit any shots on you, your screen isn't going to shake at all, but then you're still going to be able to strafe very fast, and so it's easy to stay on target a whole lot more with the combat stock. Right here is going to be my favorite 8 attachment AK-74. Absolutely incredible gun. You could even add the vertical and then do the suppressor on there. That's a pretty good suppress build. Now for the last build on this list, is going to be the Krig C, the best gun in the game just because it has more mobility than the AK. It kills just as fast, basically just a little bit slower, and there's not that much recoil. And you guys can see that we have a suppressor and we're just beaming those targets. Like, you have to rock this thing with the gunfighter though. We're going to be adding the suppressor, making it easy to stay off the streaks. If I ever get like a nuke challenge, I will definitely pull out the Krig. This thing is just extremely easy to use. The damage range is already pretty good, but if we're rocking gunfighter, might as well make it even better on the 5 attachment build. You could take off the barrel. For the underbarrel, we're going to be adding the vertical. The one downside of the gun is that there's like crazy recoil after like 6 shots, so this is going to help calm that down. You're going to be streaking up, so use the extended mag 1. The flip mag lowers the ammo count, so you don't have an option to use a fast mag. Since you can play aggressive with the gun, we're going to be adding the ergonomic, increasing that slide of fire, the die of fire, as well as the ADS speed. For the stock, we're going to be adding the balance stock because we get a whole lot of like all sorts of types of strafe speed. This is one reason why the gun feels so good while you're rushing. And then lastly, we're going to be adding the recoil springs, making the gun just that much more accurate. The rapid fire doesn't feel that good on the gun. Like, yes, it increases the rate of fire by 12%, but the gun's just going to be bouncy. You're going to be missing some shots, and I guarantee you'll do a lot better with the recoil springs. Right here is my favorite gunfighter. If you want to use the 5 attachments, we can take off the recoil springs, and then I'll probably take off the magazine, or you could take off maybe the balance. No, probably the rear grip, keep the balance stock on there. And then you can do extended mag. Right here is a pretty good 5 attachment build. Could even do the ported. You guys kind of, you know, figured out how to build all the classes now. If you guys do enjoy this video, and if you want to see more Black Ops 6 videos like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. And I hope you guys enjoyed the update. Doses.